This is about a project that I've been doing with Justin, and it's because I secretly want to be a travel vlogger, okay? I really don't want to be an academic, I just want to travel. So these are actually my own images. A lot of them will be my own images because I spend a lot of time in Croatia. So that's what it's about. So some of you might have heard last year I did a collaborative project with University of Umeå in Sweden, around current issues in marketing, and this time I decided I would do a collaborative project with the University of Rijeka in Havana. And so we had actually adopted Salesforce, which I have to thank Marie for because it's been fabulous, and we got the lovely Justin, and Justin has been my right-hand man, literally, helping me do all this and coming up with fabulous ideas, okay, about how to use technology to teach. And so I had made repeated visits to Havana, so the Havana region, to Rijeka. I have a colleague there. They're going through AACSB accreditation, so are we. So I decided what we could do to internationalise our courses. So this is, I think, relatively easier than getting on a plane and a lot cheaper, but internationalisation is incredibly important for SBL, for AACSB accreditation. So we used it as a way of teaching marketing and internationalisation. So I went and talked to the tourism board. They said, yep, that's great. My friend happens to be on the tourism board, and his wife has a colleague in the university, so it's good to have those kind of connections. And so we got them to write blogs about the Havana region. I gave them 3 posts and a video to make, and they were going to talk about this region they'd never been to. Actually, one of them had been, actually, but most of them never been to. And we said started blogging Wix, and they put the posts up. And then first step was to encourage them to share and collaborate with each other and get feedback from each other. I think this is one of the key learnings I've had talking to industry, is that people do projects and they do an okay job, but they don't do a fabulous job. So how do you get them to improve on what they're doing? We all know about rewriting journal papers, we all know about rewriting units, but we need students that are going to actually improve the quality of their work. So there was a lot of positive feedbacks on the blogs that people put up. I was really blown away. There's huge amounts of material that was swept up off the web from that region. Some people had a bit of trouble with the geography. Some people did have trouble posting on Facebook, and I found out later on that not all students use Facebook. So Justin and I are currently discussing how we're going to do it next year if I teach the unit again, or whatever collaborative project I'm going to come up with. So we might even look at starting our own blog page and buying a URL so that we can actually get the students to post on a central place and then track it across, particularly Instagram. So I had students from the Middle East who didn't use Facebook. I had students from China who don't necessarily use Facebook, but Facebook was the common denominator which we started with. So Justin started a Facebook page called Social Studio Digital Hub, which always makes me trip up. And we were getting people, so there's other people in this room who've actually done work with their students with Justin and posted on that Facebook page, so that creates great interactions. So I was getting them to do it. So here's some of the pictures. I'm sorry for those of you at the side. So here's some of the posts. So the first things I found out about was that there was a lot of positivity. That was great. There was no bagging out or no trolling, which I was excited about. It was a great way to connect with the off-campus students, so they felt that they could post up their blog, even though they never met any students. They could also look at what other people were doing, so they could see what each other was doing, and this is really important. Students don't like Blackboard, and they don't use it. So I was trying to find another way of engaging them online, and particularly Blackboard is not open to international collaborations, so that's my other problem. Okay, and I tried to give them experience of being a professional blogger. And this is super important because it's all about technical skills, so they had to create a blogging persona, which for them is really important because that's part of marketing, is creating marketing personas. And so they got to have that experience of doing that. They had to do extensive online research, which was really important for their skills. And they had to do a really hard project. It took a lot of scaffolding on my part, and a lot of video on my lectures. So I do videos where I answered lots of questions, and that was some of my most popular videos. And they had to make their own videos. So a lot of them did face to camera, and they were doing personal branding, which again is really important if you're going to be a marketing professional, okay? So they also got to have a simulation as though they were going to compete for a trip to Cabana for 7 days. When they worked out how long it would take to fly there, they were a bit shocked and horrified, but anyway, they found a lot of really interesting information, and they wrote lots of blogs, and you can see like there's comments, there's thumbs up, and there's generally quite supportive and positive reactions. But it wasn't the whole of the class that did it. What surprised me was a lot of students didn't want their blogs made public, and I need to rectify that and say to them that everything that they post must be made public, because that is what they have to have in real life, and they have to learn to use the social media in a professional context rather than just in a personal one. Okay, posting in the session paper was great data. So Justin's coming, he's going to give the technical stuff, I just give the pictures. And then the pretty pictures, that's what I'm into. But no, he did a great job. So the students could see in real time when they posted on that Facebook page how we could analyse the data in the back end of Salesforce. So this is simulating what they're going to have to do on a job. And the big problem is there are so few jobs for marketing students now. This is how we're actually differentiating them as a product, to be able to show they have the skills to actually get a job. And when they go to an interview, I've learned how to use Salesforce. A lot of them struggled, and we're still working on that. And I know about marketing analytics, and I know how it works, and I know how to manage a campaign. So great, and then we're looking at data literacy for our students. So just trying to up that. So you've got the performers. I'm actually on this page as administrator as well, so every week I get an update on all the engagement, so I know this. So the second part of it was that I cooked up over a coffee and an ice cream in Croatia in July, was we were going to get the Croatian students to give us feedback on our blogs. So I sent about 50 of the 110 blogs that I got over to Croatia. Some students didn't want them sent, so I had to drop them out. And the Croatian students, this was part of that was done in class and was part of their workload, was to come up with an evaluation process. And so I can give you the slides are public later, but these are all the criteria that they use to evaluate on a scale of 5 what they thought of the blogs. And a lot of it I'd never seen before, and I thought like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. So that was really good, and it was very interesting for me because some of the blogs that they rated lower, I rated quite high. And I actually did a video about this, because this presentation was actually partly done in class last week, and I did a video and I put up the feedback from the students and I talked about that. So online material is very, what would I say, it's not straight up analytical, it's very subjective. So I used Lexi Manson to have a look at some of the themes. It's just a picture, but it shows how they link together. The word impression and visual, all the analytics they used and they gave us written content, but there's some things they did talk about. So, and there's 50 of these, and I did a little bit of analysis, but things like information was a big issue. So my plan is to go back to, well, I'll always go back to Rijeka because I have friends there, but to go back and talk to the board about the lack of information online and some of the issues my students had. But then the students there said that they talked about it being, information was inaccurate, things were missing, they looked overly stuffed, that the design wasn't very good. But some of them just said positive, like good image to text ratio, lots of interesting things. I've been, I think, to Rijeka probably 10 times over the last 10 years, or a bit more than that, and I've been to Croatia a few more times than that as well. And now I have my tour itinerary for the next time I go, because I'm going ziplining on the island of Kirk, because I've never done that, and I'm going to send it off to my friends and they're going to organise my itinerary when I go to visit. But anyway, I know Greece. But one of the things was they really struggled, my students struggled with the geography and actually working that out, and particularly my international students. The domestic students were a lot better, the internationals did struggle, but some of the Chinese students really blew me away with the quality of what they did, and I wasn't expecting that, and so they actually showed that, because they're very social media literate compared to us in Australia. So things again, missing, some of the, but certain categories, content missing, inconsistencies, so they knew about the actual things that they had to do, so the posts that my students had to do. So they knew about the content that was required, so they were quite analytical. I did get some feedback from a couple of students. One of them sent me an email, and she said that she learned what it meant to actually create a professional blog. She learned about how people use social media. She learned also about the need for accurate data and the kind of content that you need to produce. But I'm planning to do some more research around this. But again, I did this as a test case and it was an experiment. Okay, so positive feedback from students. Oh, just seen a typo. I'm dyslexic, so I really struggle. I'm great at talking, and this has been part of the reason I've moved a lot to using videos and stuff like that, is because I know that that's my weakness, is I just don't see things oftentimes. Anyway, but both sides of the collaboration got something out of it. It was really trying to get them to think about what the industry standards were, and for my students to realise that the information online wasn't always accurate. And that's really important, because this is the millennials. They've lived all their time online, but they don't understand how to use media for professional experiences. And from, looking at how they can get international experience. So they were, quite chuffed. Even the ones from UMIO were quite chuffed as well when I did that. Quite happy when we did that, because they got to interact with people they never would have interacted with previously, okay, from a different country. A lot of them said that after doing the blogs, they were all up to go to Croatia next year on a tour, because they were so excited about the content from what they learned. Anyway, the big thing is the ongoing utilisation of the software and embedding it into the teaching, and making and giving students an idea of how to deliver things, how the software can be used to deliver marketing content and to manage customer relationships are really, really important. Right, I think that is okay. Ongoing, we were talking about maybe doing Indigenous tourism, but I don't know what's going to happen next year about the unit. But we just talked to the City of Joondalup, and I suppose my biggest thing is this one. Because I have to publish, or I'll perish. Your turn, Justin. Four? Do you want the clicker?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, because it appears, doesn't it?
So I'll just quickly go through the strategy that came up with this project. It has two. So it's giving the students the understanding of job roles that they're going to be moving into in the business, but not just one, the evolution that they've will throughout their career, and also technology, what technologies they'll use. So how we worked this out was the first sort of a student, or first year student, being all students, potentially ECU and all universities, could go on the Facebook page that we created, and then they can reply to comments, and they can see the content. And what that means is, in a real world, that they're a customer. So if you're a brand or a business, this is what you would see. You'd see people going on your Facebook page, creating comments, asking questions, asking about products. The next step, and this would maybe be for a second year student doing marketing, they would manage the social media comments. And that's where the technology comes into play. So that's Salesforce. So these students can then go in, and with these comments they can hide them, reply to them, do everything they would do in, for example, an engagement officer or a first or second year employee would do in a marketing company. So then, moving on to that, we've got the publish, and that's where you create content, and that's what Maria was telling me about, creating blogs. So, and that's what the ECU students were doing. And that's what a marketing manager would do. So as you can see, it's sort of scaffolded in a way that first year students and all students, even staff, can get on the Facebook page and look at these blogs and reply and create an ecosystem where they're learning and then managing those comments like they would do if they were out in a business or a marketing company. And then from there, if they evolve in the real world and become a marketing manager, then this is what they do. They create the content and look at the analytics. So as you can see, Helen talked about blogs. Those blogs are obviously on the Facebook page, but then we can capture Google Analytics. So around that, that's what a marketing manager would do, is look at this whole ecosystem and then try to create it better and grow it. And that's what we're trying to do here. So essentially we can add more universities. So it could be Rianka students, or it could be any university. We could add them into this ecosystem and grow it. And as you can see, I've sort of put it from right to left as they grow first year, second year, third year, but it can go the other way. So it's very versatile. I'll just quickly show you the analytics. So the students are capturing analytics in the Facebook analytics, so they can review the posts and look at which has got a greater engagement, and then they can discuss that. And then the Google Analytics are attached to the blog, so you can sort of see like a funnel of how the students go from the Facebook page and then through the blogs and what they do on the blogs. So you're giving them a real world experience. So when we talk about software, what we're trying to do is give the students an understanding of what software they use in the real world when they finally get their job. Or if they go for an interview, they can say, these are the software that I've used, and we sort of listed them in functions. So collaboration, documents, email, file storage, project management, financial software, customer relationship management, and customer service. And then you've got small business and large businesses. So in this case, we're using Salesforce, which is what large businesses would use. But if we grow this out or scaffold it, we can then use potentially ActiveCampaign, which is a cheaper piece of software that smaller businesses can use. And I've just highlighted these other in the pale yellow. I've got another project that also uses, it's about digital employability, so it uses those pieces of software, and the students get to understand what small business software they use and what large business software. Yeah.
That's it. Right, we're done. Oh, gosh, there we go, questions, but we don't have time.
We've got about 2 minutes.
Any questions? Who wants to go to Rianka? Who wants to go to Croatia? It's a beautiful place, I love it. Any questions?
One quick question.
Yeah.
What specifically did you find students struggling with?
With the technical side of the project and finding the content, I had to really scaffold about, because it was something completely different for them, so I had to write a lot, I had to do lots of in-class videos because they couldn't conceptualise what to do in this case, because it was a bit outside of what they were used to, and so it wasn't a report, it wasn't an exam, it wasn't the standard type of assessment, and a lot of them come in with not really strong technical skills, and so that's what they struggled with. But I also took that into account, and I think the big bonus was, because I videoed every single lecture when I presented it and I uploaded it, and Justin and I did a lot of stuff in the Digital Hub. We've done multiple videos and I can show you the viewing stats on those. I think that made it really good. I don't know if you're aware, but 50% of my students were online students, okay? And I've had a lot of feedback from them saying they really appreciated the videos and they felt that they were really engaged in the unit. But to do something like this takes an awful lot of work externally to actually get them all on. And when you've got 110 students and half of them online and very few of them come to class by the middle of the semester, you are really, really struggling with communication. So that's the difficulty. And again, the biggest challenge also is what is in my head and my experience. That's a continual struggle, is to communicate that. Anyway, there you go.